Hurricane Melissa is rapidly intensifying this evening, and a Category 5 hurricane is now forecast per the National Hurricane Center. So we're here to go over all the latest information that we have. Timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. We'll cover everything from current conditions, the latest from the National Hurricane Center, all model runs. We'll go over impacts, and we'll even have a segment of the video where we kind of geek out with you a little bit, discuss why this system is moving so slow and why this system has such a high-end ceiling as far as strength. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. And we are praying for you folks like crazy, our family down here in the Caribbean that's going to see just catastrophic impacts from Hurricane Melissa over the coming days. So let's get going tonight. So right now, this is now a 100-mile-per-hour hurricane. It was just upgraded at the 8 p.m. advisory, and I expect this to be even stronger by the time some folks watch this, maybe a little bit later tonight. But as of around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, it's a 100-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane. This is in a strengthening phase right now, and it could be undergoing rapid intensification. We won't know that until we just actually see how strong this can get overnight and kind of look back at the overnight period. But you see these areas in like pink and white wrapping in that cyclonic rotation here. These are colder cloud tops, which means we have stronger convection. Stronger convection, taller storms. We just have very strong thunderstorm activity wrapping around the lower level circulation. We have no cleared out eye right at this moment, but that could change by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. Outflow is now expanding out a lot better to the west, the western side of the system, still getting impacted by some westerly shear, eating up a little bit of that convection that tries to get thrown over Jamaica. But for the most part, the outflow and just the entire structure of this storm system is improving and improving at a rapid pace. So let's move past this. The latest from the National Hurricane Center, like I said, it's a 100-mile-per-hour hurricane. The central pressure is now dropped to 971 millibars. It's moving at a whopping 3 miles per hour to the west. So it's now ticking to the west, not really to the north anymore. So we'll continue to watch that. Will it, tick a little bit to the southwest at any point with the life of this system over the next couple of days? There is the possibility of that, and we'll discuss that when we break down steering currents a little bit later in the video. But 100-mile-per-hour Cat 2 hurricane. Like I said, by the time some of you folks watch this, maybe after midnight tonight, it could be a major hurricane. Like I said, this is in a strengthening phase right now. So let's update this, see if we have any new information. We do not. I know that says a 90-mile-per-hour hurricane, but this just is not updated yet. And the cone has not really shifted at all. So this is a 100-mile-per-hour hurricane. Just remember that, even though it says 90 here. But forecast to become a major hurricane sometime tonight, 2 a.m. here in the next several hours or so. By the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, should be a Category 4. But listen, all bets are off. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a Category 4 hurricane sometime tonight. We all know that a lot of times these intensity forecasts inside this cone sometimes are just a little bit under what actually ends up happening, especially when we have a hurricane that is rapidly intensifying. A lot of times these systems overachieve that peak forecast intensity. So just remember that as we go along here. But by 2 a.m. Monday, high-end Category 4, 155-mile-per-hour hurricane, and now its peak intensity is sometime Monday afternoon as a Category 5, 160-mile-per-hour hurricane. We'll see if that bumps up, but this is the entirety of the cone. I should have probably showed you that right off the dot, but let's zoom back in. Just remember, the cone goes from here to here. This is where the center of the storm could still go. So it has it way down here still. So the system could still dip down. And this is not the impact cone. This is where the center, the actual low-level circulation of the central pressure of this system can go, the middle of it. So we're going to see impacts way out away from this cone, especially on the eastern side. Okay? But it is forecast to make some sort of landfall, more than likely Tuesday morning, as a high-end Category 4 hurricane. Could be a Cat 5. And the cone, the middle of this cone goes right over Jamaica. Jamaica has hurricane warnings right now. Hurricane watches have been issued for eastern Cuba. That has changed since this morning's video. We continue to have tropical storm warnings up and hurricane watches for the same areas of Haiti that's pretty much had it for a while now. By the time we get into Tuesday afternoon, 130 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane. This will weaken over Jamaica as it encounters higher terrain. Higher elevations really shred these systems apart. So we have to see how slow it does move over Jamaica. All right, from Tuesday afternoon to Wednesday afternoon, it will weaken, but that is probably the time frame it will go over eastern Cuba. Now, is there a possibility this goes over here, maybe misses an exact landfall over eastern Cuba? Absolutely. But the third landfall will likely occur somewhere in the southern Bahamas. It could be in the Turks Caicos Islands. But if you live in these islands here in the Bahamas, Turks Caicos Islands, be ready for a hurricane as we get into the middle portion of this coming work week. But you'll start to see impacts before that. And then we zoom this out. Okay, Bermuda, you are not in the cone yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if you get into the cone over the next day or so. Okay, this only goes out to Thursday afternoon. It stops at that point, but says it should still be a Category 1 hurricane by Thursday afternoon around 2 p.m. So obviously it goes from here Wednesday afternoon to here Thursday afternoon. It starts to pick up a lot of forward speed. Okay, but forecast peak intensity is a Category 5 storm now, guys. Hurricane hunters are in this right now. They're going to try to wrap back around and fly back into this, but they've already made one pass, and they found a central low pressure of around the low 970s. And if you look right here, it's going to be hard to see. I'm going to kind of circle this a little bit on your screen. Right here in this area, see that kind of bright pink wind bar? That is winds that were measured at around or a little over, a little under about 100 knots at flight level. So basically, this is a 100 mile per hour hurricane, just to sum it up. So it is strengthening. It's showing a lot stronger winds at flight level now. So, I mean, that makes sense because we always knew this was going to begin to strengthen in this time period, and that's exactly what's going to do. So I'll be interested. The hurricane hunters are probably going to do something like this and kind of fly right back through the storm and maybe do like that. Maybe they'll make another pass. Maybe they'll go over here and do like that. So we'll see if there's an even lower pressure when it passes through again. This is kind of one of those things where the pressure can just drop and drop and drop in just a 1 to 2 hour period. It can drop like 5 to 10 millibars. Or just where they pass through the storm, they find just a stronger storm system. So let's go over model data. All right, we're going to just go over the hurricane model. This is the H-Wharf model. Initializing this evening is around a 970, which is initializing it pretty right on, because if we go back and look at this, it is a 971. So the H-Wharf model doing pretty well with initiation. I got a feeling that the hurricane hunter is going to find some stronger winds on this northeast side when it's about to pass through here in a second. Right now, has not. I wonder if they'll find some stronger winds right here. Anyways, let's continue to move forward. We get into Sunday morning. It says by Sunday morning, this drops about 25 millibars to a 945. We will wake up to at minimum a Category 3 hurricane tomorrow morning, but it could be a Cat 4. Jamaica's right here, okay? We continue to move forward here. We get into Sunday afternoon, 944. So kind of weird. The H-Wharf model doesn't have much strengthening of this system from tomorrow morning to tomorrow afternoon. So 944, it pretty much stays in the 940s on this run. I don't believe that. But let's back it up here. This is Sunday afternoon. Jamaica's getting thrashed. I mean, just hit hard with outer bands. And the big question is the low pressure hanging right off the coastline of the southern areas of Jamaica, the southern coastline of Jamaica? If it does, that inner eye wall or even outer eye wall could just grind down the southern coastline of Jamaica. That would cause devastation beyond what we can imagine. And that's outside of the flooding that's going to inevitably happen with this system. So we continue. Look at these feeder bands just going right into the higher terrain of Jamaica. We get into late tomorrow night and then Sunday morning, okay? And this is the latest data, 18Z. I mean, it's still running. It hasn't even fully ran all the way through. Monday morning has this right off the southwest coastline of Jamaica, and it actually never makes a landfall. It goes right down and just off the southern coastline of Jamaica, then gets it off the western coastline of Jamaica, and then sort of just is very slow. We get into Tuesday morning, and this comes up and just slams the eastern half of Cuba sometime Tuesday morning. It's much further west, then it comes up and hits more of the Bahamas because it's further north as on its approach, because it's further west, therefore it would end up being further north. So this is late Tuesday evening. We got what looks like a Category 2 at minimum hurricane going right through the southern Bahamas. And then we have to see what happens after that. HMON model, here it comes. It's initializing this as a 965 millibar low, not really far off, but it says as we wake up tomorrow morning, it's in the 940s, major hurricane. Then by Tuesday afternoon, it's strengthening even more, maybe a Category 4, maybe a Category 5 hurricane. Listen, if you told me that we're going to wake up to a Cat 5 hurricane tomorrow morning, I would say, yeah, I mean, I could see that as a possibility. That wouldn't blow, I'll tell you this, it wouldn't blow me away one bit. So we continue to move forward here and we get into Monday morning. The hurricane models are coming much further south. It keeps this just going west. And this is well off the southern coastline of Jamaica. I'm going to be very interested. And let's see if we have something right here. I'm just going to go back and forth a little bit on this. Oh, it hasn't changed. I want to look at this too. This hasn't changed either. I'm going to be very interested to see at 11 p.m. update if they bump the center of the cone a little bit further west over Jamaica. We'll just have to watch that. We go into Monday midday. This is a powerful hurricane. Just look at all this rain, wind-driven rain slamming Jamaica. Then it comes up and makes a landfall along the central southern coastline of Jamaica. Goes right up through the island and then gets north of Jamaica, comes up, slams Cuba. Tuesday makes a landfall, comes up through the Bahamas. Turks Caicos over here, but hits somebody in the Bahamas. Whether it makes an actual landfall on one of the islands, certainly not sure on this, but we get into Wednesday morning and still a powerful hurricane as it's leaving the Bahama Islands. HFA model was its show. We get into Sunday morning, gradual strengthening overnight. It says it's going to be in the low 950s. And then we get into a Sunday evening, tomorrow evening, 943. And then we get into Monday morning, Cat 3 or 4 hurricane based off this run. And this run has it deepening into the 930s. And it's well south of Jamaica, but then makes a landfall Tuesday morning into Jamaica. Right now, they have this making landfall early Tuesday morning, but it pretty much has it for Tuesday morning. So that matches up well with this model run. Comes up, hits Jamaica, gets north of Jamaica Tuesday midday, and then by sometime late Tuesday night, hits eastern Cuba, comes up, goes to the Bahamas Wednesday morning, and then it leaves the area. One last hurricane model to look at, the HFB model. We get into Sunday morning, strengthening hurricane. As that number drops, that indicates a strengthening hurricane. We get into Monday morning, 948, Cat 3 or 4 hurricane. But I'm telling you, this could be way off. This could easily be a Category 5 hurricane at this point. It's well south of Jamaica. It's spinning around, just chilling here in the warm the warm waters of the Caribbean. And then it comes up, and the latest HFB model has us deepening to a 930 millibar low as it approaches the central southern coastline of Jamaica. So hurricane models are really locking in to what the National Hurricane Center is showing time frame wise for an actual landfall in Jamaica. And then this comes up, it's really locking on to a time frame to hit Cuba also as far as the actual low level circulation. That's sometime Tuesday night. And then it's like in sometime late Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon across the southern Bahama Islands. And then this gets on out of here. Grand Ensemble has not changed. I mean, it's pretty much locked into this. This pretty much combines all model data besides the UK Met. All these little individual members are individual members from the ensemble. It's one of the best things you can look at. So the actual black line here is the mean of all this model data. And this has not changed since this morning. It kind of goes like this, and then it comes up and hits Jamaica and then Cuba. And we got to watch for Bermuda on down the road. Okay, I need to make this a little bit bigger. But I will tell you, it looks like we're trending this away from our friends up here in Atlantic, Canada. We have certainly trended this away from the East Coast, which is good news. I will take a closer look at what we call the Google DeepMind Ensemble members here. And I just want to show you how much they're all locked into. All these members are locked into a landfall into Jamaica. It's almost a lock that you guys are going to get an awful hurricane scenario with this. And it's almost a lock for eastern Cuba too. And it spreads out a little bit more through the Bahamas to the Turks Caicos Islands. So as far as impacts, we have the ugly purple one here now in eastern Jamaica. That is for up to 40 inches of rain. The pink is 20 to 30 plus inches of rain. This includes western Haiti and the western half of Jamaica. There is a sharp cutoff. And just remember, the entire eastern side of the system is what we call the dirty side of the system. It's where the most rain is going to be. Probably some of your strongest winds are going to be. But just remember that when we're trying to figure out winds, your highest winds are always in that inner core of the hurricane, what wraps around the eye of that hurricane. And we still got to figure out who exactly that hits. And sometimes we just don't know until it's happening. But they're forecasting in this red area, and this is the 4-day forecast, by the way, 12 to 16 inches of rain in eastern Cuba. The orange is 8 to 12. It's 200 to 400 millimeters of rain, guys. I mean, it's a lot. This is going to be catastrophic. If you don't know anything about Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica as far as the terrain, there is high mountain ranges. I mean, pretty much scattered throughout the entirety of Jamaica. And eastern Cuba has higher terrain. It flattens out a little bit in central Cuba, I believe, but there's higher terrain in Haiti. So all these rain bands really push up against the higher elevated regions, and then it causes lift, squeezes out all the available tropical moisture in the atmosphere, which, because this is a tropical system, there'll be plenty of that. This is the chances to see hurricane force winds, basically 75 mile per hour winds or higher. And we've bumped this up to a 60 to 70% chance here in the southern areas of Jamaica. And right through the middle of Jamaica, it's up to a 50 to 60% chance. This will continue to increase. This red to burgundy area will start to move into Jamaica as confidence increases. And it's pretty much a lock to see hurricane force winds. And I think for some of these areas, it's a lock to see Category 3 hurricane force winds, which is 115 mile per hour winds or higher. It's just trying to figure out who gets this eye wall. And I'm only gonna break down 1 to 2 hurricane models here as far as wind speeds. So this is the HFB model. So if a scenario like this plays out, I do want to mention, you see the colors here. You see that kind of grayed out silver look right around the center of circulation here, the low level circulation. Folks, that is pushing 140 mile per hour winds, wind gust, because this is wind gust. So who's going to see that? So as we're moving closer, the outer eye wall is already hitting the southern shoreline of Jamaica as we're getting into late tomorrow night into Monday morning. But as we're starting to get into Monday evening and then Monday night and then Tuesday morning, who is going to see the worst of this eye wall? Strong tropical storm force, hurricane force wind gusts will be over the entirety of the island of Jamaica. But who is going to see the true inner core wall? And that is extremely hard to forecast. I think some people, when they say, 150 mile per hour hurricane, they immediately think, I used to think this before I started chasing them occasionally. I think a lot of people think that right when you get into the hurricane, you're supposed to see 150 mile per hour wind gusts. That's not the case. Your strongest winds are in that inner eye wall. It's kind of like the core of the earth, if you remember learning about that. You got the inner eye wall, you got the outer eye wall, just like you got the inner core, the outer core, and it's like the mantle is kind of all the banding features going around the actual cyclonic rotation of the system. Okay, and you can get crazy weather in that too. But anyways, who's going to get the core of this hurricane? Whoever does is going to get Category 4 to 5 hurricane conditions, which is anywhere from 130 to 160 mile per hour wind gust. It's going to go over Jamaica. By the time we get into Tuesday p.m., you'll start to see the worst of it in eastern Cuba. We just got to figure out what you guys are going to get. And then we have a broadening wind field, more than likely, going through the southern and central Bahamas. I mean, this looks huge. I mean, and this is 110 mile per hour wind gusts going right through the southern Bahamas. So it's a nasty look, guys. We just got to figure it out. So why is the system moving so slow? I've explained this a lot, and we're probably about to start moving away from explaining this so much just because we've done it so much. But the wind barbs, like for example, you look at this wind barb right here, you can see that portion of the wind barb facing that way. That is where the flow is coming out of. And this is flow in the mid to upper levels in the atmosphere, okay? So we got this trough digging down, flow's kind of going around that like that, flow's going up like this, A lot of upper wind flow going from the west to the east up here. At the same time, you got sort of a high pressure right here, flow moving around this feature. It's light, I would say, like that. And we still have a lingering high pressure over here. Flows going around this like that. So our system itself is kind of in between all these steering currents up here, right here, and here. And it's right smack in the middle of it. You see this blob of energy here, yellow, orange, whatever color you want to call that? That is Melissa. It's jammed in between all those flows. So as we move forward here, I want you to watch how this area kind of builds over the system. So at this point, we'll kind of stop it. It's hard to tell what's going on here. We'll kind of stop it right here. This is getting into late tomorrow night into Monday morning. So now we still got the high pressure right here. Flow is kind of building over the system a little bit right into here. Okay, so this actually helps to, for a time, kind of continue to push our system west, south of Jamaica. This also, no, don't want to do that. This also creates flow as a ridge is on top of our system temporarily to the north of this system. This actually helps our outflow, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but this actually helps the upper wind pattern as a ridge, kind of creates divergence aloft and shifts the winds and basically weakens the wind shear as the position of this ridge kind of shifts a little bit. But that's why this system just kind of hangs out down here. It's basically caught in between different steering currents. But then when that ridge weakens, and more importantly, when this trough digs down right here, okay, you see that little nudge in this trough? It picks up Melissa and begins to take it on out, further out in the Atlantic. Okay, so that's kind of what's driving this steering current wise. The next thing that we speak on is what's driving rapid intensification with this system. Well, our tropical system, Melissa, is right here in 31 degrees Celsius sea surface temperature. So as far as the waters, so you convert 31 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. I mean, that's in the mid to upper 80s. So it's very warm, and there's depth to that warm water, which means that, yeah, the surface of the ocean is very warm, but below the surface is pretty warm also. And that's not always the case. So we have some of the warmest, one of the warmest bodies of water on planet Earth right here in the Caribbean, where Melissa will be at over the next few days. I mean, look at this area between Jamaica and Cuba, 31, 32 degrees Celsius. I mean, there's probably somewhere out here that's like 90 degrees as far as sea surface temperature. So you got that working with it. Now, before I get into the upper flow of the system, this is the water vapor loop. I think it's going to explain what I'm about to talk to you about very well. So if you notice, we got a lot of moist air being dispersed out here. You can see that pretty clearly, right? Coming down here, coming down here. Now, a couple days ago, really even just this morning, but definitely like 24 hours ago, this entire area right here was being pretty much eat up by dry air because we had a strong shear blasting the western side of the system. That's not the case now. Now you have some expanding out of the upper winds and the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is allowing for this system to really crank up more of a moist environment as a whole with this system. So now that we're seeing some expanding out of these upper winds, therefore the expanding out of moist air on the western and northwestern side of the system, it's really able to tap into its full potential. And it's really just starting to develop a real potent environment for divergence aloft, the spreading of winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere away from the system. What this does is it allows for more air to rise. That gets dispersed out, allowing for more air to rise after that. So it's like, as that air gets dispersed out on top of the storm, it provides room for more air to rise and replace it. Rising air allows for convection. Convection is shower and thunderstorm activity. Shower and thunderstorm activity does what? It moistens up the environment. Our tropical storms, our tropical systems like moist air. So if it can cocoon itself with a very moist environment around that actual low-level circulation, then we'll start to have a cleared out eye right into here. Okay? Now you can compare that with this. As we move forward here into tomorrow morning, the environment will do nothing but improve. And you see these lines with the arrows embedded into them, expanding outward. I mean, that tells the story right there. We continue to have this pattern that's already evolving in the upper levels continue to evolve between now and the next couple of days. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's not so much, it's more so that this system, it's not that the shear is lessening. I would say, let me say it like this. The shear is going to be persistent with this storm for the life of it, but it is lessening. So as it lessens, it can actually tap into the environment that's kind of already there. And as it does, it develops an inner core. When it develops an inner core, this system gets taller. Therefore, when it gets taller and it's already just hanging out in very weak steering currents, therefore we have weak upper flow, it almost creates its own environment to really just thrive in these warm sea surface temperatures. And it creates an environment for a lot of disbursement of air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So, I mean, this system is able just to continue to push out a lot of air. And it looks a little weird right here, but still, I mean, this system is even spinning at this point cyclonically, even in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So it's so tall at this point, so strong, that it's just creating its own environment. So, yeah, that's when I was checking some data. Let's see if we have any updated graphics or anything like that. 100-mile-per-hour storm. Let's see if the forecast intensity has tweaked any. It has not. So, yeah, that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Let's look at one little thing here. Yeah, they're about to go back into this thing right now. So who knows? This might be a Category 3 hurricane by the time this video uploads. So God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night, and we'll continue to work at this tomorrow morning.